culture. I wax lyrical about it to the team all the time. I'm beginning to worry they're getting a bit fed up listening to me, but it really is one of the best resources I've seen in my entire teaching career, which is about 30 years, just about, and that amazes me too. So I hope what we show you today, you're going to really, really enjoy seeing. Think about who could be using it in your class, for what curricular area you could be using it for your class, how you can expand children's minds and your own by exploring some of the best resources you'll ever find on the internet. Curated and collated just for you by Google. So I'd like to introduce my colleagues, Stuart and Lee. Lee's going to be talking you through some of how she will use Google Arts and Culture as a teacher, and Stuart will do the same. So Lee, I'll pass over to you to introduce yourself. And she's frozen. Oh.
Milligan, I've been. Oh no. Am I here?
You're here. Yep.
Yes. You can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I might take my camera off then, shall I?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Milligan and I lead up the digital learning team up in Glasgow for XMA. I've been on a few of the webinars so far with my lovely colleagues here, and yeah, really excited to share with you some kind of practical tips of how you can use Google Arts and Culture. My background is modern languages secondary teacher, so have loved using it in the past and continue to love using it. So yeah, really excited to be here too.
And Stuart?
Thank you very much, Michael. Afternoon, everyone. What a lovely way to kind of round off, or come to the round off end of the week by getting a wee bit of art and culture into our systems. I'm a digital learning consultant as well, working in the Glasgow office with Lee, and yeah, really looking forward to seeing how we can enhance the classroom with Google. As a primary school teacher myself to trade, so hopefully give you some wee tips and tricks and show you some of the things you can do within Google Arts and Culture. Thank you.
Fabulous. So let's get started then. I'm Michael Conlon. I'm a transformation consultant at XMA. My job is to really encourage people to embrace technology in their schools across curriculum, because we know very much that the kind of skills that young people are going to need as they move into the future will be digital, and let's let them explore their life and their culture and their art and themselves through technology, and that's what this session's all about. So I'm going to present my screen just now. Hopefully we will get exactly what we want, which will be this. And can you all see the Google Arts and Culture homepage?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so welcome everyone to Google Arts and Culture. Just search for that in Google and it'll take you straight to the site, and this is where you land. I think what's really important for us to understand, I guess, is that every interaction that we have with culture and art forces us to ask questions about ourselves as a species, about our own inner selves, because as adults we know that art and music, culture, travel really broadens the mind, you know, in exploring the arts, whether it's theatre, music, dance, modern, historic, you know, knowing your history really does broaden the mind. And we can't get out at the moment in lots of different ways. So how can we bring culture and art into the classroom? It's going to open up new ways of thinking when you encourage young people to delve into this aspect of their lives and our lives. It really does change us. It really does help us grow. And more importantly, when you see some of the art here and some of the culture here, you don't have to like it all, of course, because I think that's a really important part, is you get to see what you like and what you don't like. You'll never know what's possible. You'll never engage with what's possible or impossible. You'll never understand what moves you until you actually get in front of it and make a decision yourself and have a reaction, whether that's emotional or not. And I'm reminded of a time I went on a trip to the Salvador Dali exhibition that was going on in London with some of my colleagues in school, one of my members of my department, and we went into the exhibition, and he walked around and he said, "I don't get this. This doesn't do anything for me. I don't like this stuff." And I said, "Well, that's great. That's absolutely great because you've had an emotional response to it, and that's perhaps what the artist wanted you to have, because it lets you know what you liked and what you didn't like. I don't know why he's doing it. He said, well, I said, why don't you go and explore a little bit more and find out a little bit more about Salvador Dali and where he was coming from and why he produced this rubbish, as you called it. And I think it's really important we expose children to as much art and culture as we possibly can, especially during your current environment where we can't get out there into the places we want to go to. So I'm going to give you a broad overview of the site, and then I'm going to ask Lee and Stuart to run through some examples of how they've used it. So this is a landing page. We have lots of different features and things for you to see, to be suggested to you. So do you want to go to discover Portugal's wonders? Well, you could click on that. Do you want to take a road trip around the United States? Well, you could do that. Now, really interestingly, and I know the guys will back me up, is that the homepage changes all the time. So this morning when we were rehearsing this, believe it or not, we have rehearsed this. When we did this morning, the homepage looked completely different. Different resources up at the top end, because the whole point of the site is to stimulate your thinking and not let you be bored. So if you want to discover St. Mark's Basilica in Italy and all the culture that's there, here are some of the highlights you can go to. So it's trying to stimulate your interest by giving you something in the homepage that's maybe different every day. And as we scroll down, you'll see there's an option there to get the app. Now, the app exists on both Google Play and on Apple App Store, and it's exactly the same site with exactly the same resources, but you will also get some extra features which I know Stuart's going to go on. So there's lots of different options here if you want to look to play some cultural and artistic games, or go to particular places, or go to particular museums, or go and look at particular artworks. We then can scroll through other options and other things you might want to have a look at, like a pocket gallery, which you'll do through augmented reality on your phone or your tablet, or whether it's Google or Apple. Find your new favorite artwork. Why don't you try and have a look at this one, see what you think about it? So if I was to click on that, it's going to take me to this particular painting. Hazy, I wouldn't even dare to pronounce that properly. But we can click on any artwork, and we can have a closer look at it. So up in the top right here, you'll see there's a little thumbnail sketch of that painting with a plus and a minus arrow, and you can drag this white bar to the right to get up close to see how this was constructed. And this is one of the most amazing things about Google Arts and Culture, getting close to art and seeing exactly how this was constructed. Now, in most museums in the world, you'll not be able to do that because you're usually behind a barrier. But I can use this little grid here to move around the rabbit's face, and we can see how that was drawn. And if you're beginning to develop your interest in art, you can see how that image was constructed by the artist. Let's go back to the homepage and continue to scroll. So the whole point of the homepage is just to stimulate new ideas and new things for you to see. So in the Explore options, for example, you can visit over 2,000 museums around the world, over 100,000 artworks in high definition, and over 10,000 famous sites in Street View. And for those of you that have used Google Street View or Google Earth before, you'll know that that's an amazing tool to be used for young people and yourself. We're going to have a look at Starry Night in just a second, but the whole site then, beginning to end, is all about stimulating your interest. And you can play around and go down all sorts of nooks and crannies by clicking on things like that too. Europe with Famous Painter. But I'm going to give you a much more organized way of looking at it. And over on the left-hand side, under the little burgers, the three little lines here, you can see all the options that are available to you in Google Arts and Culture. So I'm going to just start with a few to start off with before I pass over to Lee. So if we go to Explore, it's going to take you to some of the highlights of the things it would encourage you to look at. So the main categories are artists, the mediums that you work in art, art movements, historic events, and historical figures. Then moving on to places in the world. So these are the main categories that you can search on, and it's really nicely curated and organized. We'll look at that in just a second. We can explore by time, for example. If I choose time, up at the top of the screen, we can see the art, which is somewhere around 1825. So these pieces of art were created in that kind of time period, but you can simply hold your mouse button down on one of the years and just scroll. So if we go to 1930, probably, here are some of the paintings that were developed in the 1930s. I find that really interesting. You can go all the way back to, you know, 1500s and see the kind of paintings, very different from the ones we create now. So this explore part, again, is trying to give you curated things to look at. Back on the left-hand side, we've got nearby. So if I click on nearby, it knows where I am in the country. It's going to suggest some museums I could visit near to where I am. And I'm obviously in Scotland at the moment. I happen to just be in Perth in Scotland. Lovely place if you want to come to it. But here are all the museums which are close to me. Okay, so there's 2 in Perth. There's 2 in Epefre. There's some up in Dundee here. But I'm going to go to the National Museums of Scotland, which is 41 miles away, open till 4:30. I don't think I'm going to make it. But if I go to that museum, it's going to show me exactly where it is within the museums that are within this part of Edinburgh. But if I go to view in Google Arts and Culture, I'll get taken to that museum's site where I can look at some of the stories that the National Museum has curated and built with Google Arts and Culture. So if you want to find out and look at the online exhibit for John Logie Baird and the television, you can do that. Or you can look at particular objects, or you can go into the museum and walk around some of its artifacts. So let's jump into Street View with Ancient Egypt Rediscovered. And this will take us to a street view version of inside the museum. So we can't get to Edinburgh and into this museum, but what we can do is if I hold down my mouse button on the screen and I can pan around and I can actually move around that museum. And I can see all these different objects that exist and I can get up closer to them. Oh, pan around and you can see some of the fantastic artwork that's there. And that street view feature is in museums all around the world. So you get a sense of what that space is, and you get a sense of how those objects have been curated and presented to members of the public. There's a sphinx with the head chopped off. I wonder how that happened. No doubt maybe a toddler running about and crashing into it, perhaps. But I can go directly to that museum, to the Grand Gallery of that museum, to the roof terrace, to the East Asia exhibition that it's got there, or I can click on and look at any of the objects that it's got curated and it wants to show me, everything from fashion to design, as well as art and objects from the past. So that was just by going to nearby and finding the museums nearby to me. If I go to collections now, I'm going to look at collections, and here is the 2,000 galleries and 2,000 museums around the world that we can look at. That, for me, is unbelievable, that we've got 2,000 museums that I can go to and dip into without leaving the classroom. Of course, I would like to go to New York and see the Museum of Modern Art. Of course I would. I would like to go to Austria and France, but the second best thing, perhaps, is just going there virtually. So if I go to the Museum of Modern Art, as I'm about to go and do in a second, I'll be able to look around all the objects that they have within there at the moment. And I'm not joking when I say 2,000 museums. You can see they're popping up on the screen as we go. So if there's parts of the world you want to go to in Australia, you can see what exhibits are out there. So let me go into the Museum of Modern Art. And again, they've created a particular story, an online exhibit about Sophie Taubert. If you want to look at that, you can look directly in a list organized by all the paintings and objects are organized on this scrollable bar. So you can see there's some modern art there. You can see there's some traditional art. There's physical objects. There's photographs. We can move all the way across there. You can see there's some of the most famous ones in the world, especially the Starry Night painting, which I absolutely love. And again, I can click on that Starry Night painting. And again, we can get up close, the same way we did before. Look at the thumbnail sketch and then zoom up. Oh, that is really close. So close, in fact, that when I got up to, glitchy. When I got up to the sun part of it, you can see the deep brush strokes, the amount of paint that's actually been used to construct that image and what gives it its power. It's both not just a flat object, it's a very physical, solid object with layers and things that stand out. And that's what you respond to when you're looking at it. Just the energy that's in that picture, just with the amount of movement, plus that you can actually see the paint in it. Getting up close like that using gigapixel light views is phenomenal for all of us, of course. Let me come out. The computer seems to have froze. Let's go back to that. And starting it again, you can see in Street View. So if I go to Street View just now, you can see where that painting is in amongst all the other paintings that exist there. So in this museum, they've got Starry Night just on a wall of its own, but they've also got Henri Rousseau. They've also got another Van Gogh there, the olive tree, another Rousseau, another Klimt. Is it Klimt? Yes, indeed. And you can get up close to that too without having to leave the classroom. Absolutely phenomenal. So I'm very excited about being able to visit 2,000 museums, as you can well imagine. If I go back to the collections, and those 2,000 museums, you can also organise it by a map. So we'll show you a world map to say, these are all the museums we have. We've got everything from Alaska. We've got a single one up here in, I think it's in Anchorage. It is, the Anchorage Museum. But in the UK, for example, we've got 143. And it will zoom in and it will show you, well, where do you want to go in the country? Let's go to kind of maybe Manchester kind of part of the world, perhaps. Is that Manchester? Yeah, just up here. Okay, and there we have the Lowry Museum. So I could just click on the Lowry Museum. Lowry's a very famous painter. I know lots of children study his paintings because oftentimes they're about every ordinary working people and children and how their lives are lived. And again, you can just dive into any object, but you can also go to some of these stories and articles they have about a particular painter in that particular museum. So that was collections, 2,000 museums. If 2,000 museums is of no use to you, then fair enough. But there's lots more to explore. Let's go to themes. So in themes, what Google Arts and Culture have done again is created a whole list of curated stories and objects that they think you might want to take a journey with. So you might want to look at ancient Egypt mummies and mysteries, which I absolutely would like to do. So when I go to that particular part of the site, it's going to give you lots of assets and resources that you're not probably going to be able to have access to. Of course, you could search Google for mummies and things like that, but the fact that they put it all together into one space for you really gives you an awful lot of confidence that you're going to find the things that are going to deliver the kind of lesson and the learning that you want to in your class. So you might want to find out about the ABCs. What are the ancient hieroglyphic symbols all about? You could find out how to read hieroglyphics. And with your class, if that was your topic, for example, Google Arts and Culture would be the perfect place for you to go to. Have a look at what the resources are there and find out how to use them as a teacher. There's an interactive game, for example, about creating your own Egyptian hieroglyphics. That's phenomenal. I also like to go to, within themes, I'm a big fan of, you can see how many there are here, the performing arts. I'm a big fan of the performing arts. And this gives us an example of some of the technology that sits behind the power of the Chrome browser, for example. So in the performing arts section of this particular theme, if I launch the experience, is the button that it gives me there. And we're going to look at work that's being developed by the Google Cultural Institute. So if I look at music, for example, I can go and take a 360-degree performance of the Carnegie Hall. Now, I think I've probably already got it here. And here we have, this is a 360-degree performance that you can step on stage and be with these performers. Let's just watch how it works. I'll maybe turn the volume up so you can hear the fantastic music. Press play. Let me jump to a different part of the stage. Now I can move around the stage, hold down my mouse button, see what everyone's up to, brass are about to get well involved. Let me go and join the conductor. Back up to percussion. Oh. Big climax. I absolutely love that. The fact you can get in amongst it in these 360-degree tour parts within the Google Cultural Institute is a phenomenal opportunity for young people to be curious and to ask questions and discover things that are interesting to them in the performing arts, for example. And all of that came through just looking at themes. Now, I'm going to pause and stop talking and pass the sharing over to Lee. And Lee's going to take you through some of the things she would use in order to build a lesson. And then Stuart will show you some of the things he's been playing around with augmented reality. And I'll finish off by covering these last few pieces, which are equally as amazing towards the end of the session. I'm going to stop sharing just now. And Lee, do you have control now?
I hope so, yeah. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine, thank you.
I don't know how I quite go from Carnegie Hall to my selfie, but you know.
Well, there you go.
There we go. There we go. So yeah, and also it has a, by the way, a rabbit, that picture. But anyway, I love Google Arts and Culture, and not just because I have spent hours of fun with my kids on the art selfie tool to find out our art double ganger. Yeah, I'm not quite sure about the results there. Looking a little bit haggard on the left, but it was a busy day. But yeah, also because we had lots of fun with the AR 3D animals too. My kids absolutely love Google. It's great for storytelling and some distraction from lockdown as well. But Arts and Culture offers so much more than that. And today I hope to show you some ways in which this totally free, accessible resource can really be useful to allow for those all important 21st century skills. And that's what I'm interested in. You know, sometimes I see things and I go, oh, is that a little bit kind of, I don't know, like just gimmicky? I want to think about the pedagogy. I want to think about my teaching content, and then I want to be able to use these tools and resources to really enhance the learning. So Google Arts and Cultures has really kind of allowed my learners in the modern languages classroom to extend their communication. It's allowed for inspiration of creativity, and it offers a far more real, rich and authentic learning experience. There we go, there's my kids there. And here's Kandinsky. So you had Carnegie Hall, and now you've got a bit of Kandinsky in the background. Hopefully it plays whilst I talk and it doesn't talk, it's not too loud. So Google Arts and Culture is being constantly developed in those in close collaboration with partners like museums. That's what Michael's kind of showed you. As exciting, as eye-opening as it would be to travel and visit these locations, it's not always possible. And indeed, right now, not even those privileged enough to afford to do so can. It's quite depressing, really. But anyway, we have Google Arts and Culture. And as a language teacher, I was always looking way before COVID, ways to engage my learners in more deep and meaningful learning experiences. And by using flipped and problem-based learning centered around the learner, Google Arts and Culture is such an invaluable tool and resource to give access to places, collections, art movements, music, and past events. I love the historical events section. Particularly great for visual learners, I feel. It houses content which can be experienced through a variety of media, such as video like this, super high-res images like that Starry Night picture that Michael showed you. We've got augmented reality, which is what Stuart's going to show us a little bit more about, and 3D models as well. Some of the images are so clear, the details clearly here and
Breaking up a little bit.
Oh, pop on Google Arts and Culture and just enjoy it for a few breaths. Okay, and hope you can hear me a bit better because I've now moved on. Here we can see that was a video of Kandinsky's gigapixel images, and they allow you to see the actual paint strokes and the textures. That's what kind of Michael showed you. You can also easily search. Michael showed you how to kind of search through all those options there, but through the left-hand side of the screen, you can search for themes and experiments and artists, and there's your historical events and everything. But if you want to be a bit more specific, and this is what I use a lot of the time, you just use the search function in the top right-hand corner here. And then you can add to your favorites. So if I just click on this, it should take us to, here we go, holding screen. And if I go to search, I'm going to go to Kandinsky. And here I can see all 744 items by Kandinsky. I can go into his collections. I can see stories, more items here that I can look through. Down here, we've got user galleries, so we can look at other people's galleries as well. It's fantastic. I'm going to go on to Kandinsky, and I could save that as a favorite, or I can actually go back and go down to an image which I really, really like, and I want to save it as part of my curated gallery. So this one's actually grabbing my eye, and I'm going to save it as a favorite here. And now if I go to my favorites, I've got some already that I've added. I can also now add galleries. So I've got my favorites here. I've got some stories which I've saved before. I can go to galleries now. I've already set one up. It's really easy to do. All you go to do is tap on plus. You select the items that you've added as favorites. So let's go for 2 there, for example. Continue on, and all you have to do is add in a title. Test. That's really, really creative there, test. But anyway. And once you're done, that's you got another lovely collection. So it's your very own curated collection and your personalized art gallery. I really love that. If I just come back to my slides here. So as an example of a disciplinary project I was part of with my senior phase pupils, I used Google Arts and Culture. And after Googling and mind mapping some ideas, a group of pupils decided to collaborate on a project looking at Bauhaus, which actually Kandinsky is linked to. I'd heard that Google for Education had worked in partnership with TESS to produce like projects and lesson plans to accompany expeditions. So I did a quick Google search, and we managed to find this Bauhaus Everywhere, Learn Everywhere, which is down here. It's particularly helpful for hybrid remote learning because your learners can really work at their own pace and select the information that's most appealing to them, whilst also considering their audience when presenting their findings. So if I just scroll down here, all I need to do is click here, and as per magic, here's one that I did earlier. This is the PDF, which you can then download totally for free. And it is a lesson plan. I'm always a little bit nervous about lesson plans because I think, oh, I don't want people just to go through page by page, but actually it's a really great resource, and you could happily go page by page through this resource. The plan takes you on a fascinating journey with plenty of links throughout, and there's no need to print, but there is plenty, as you can see here, of opportunity to use pen and paper to create, for example, your very own honeycomb 3D Bauhaus model. So here are all the links here that you can click on. I'm not going to click on every link because you're not here to take a lesson on Bauhaus. Here's Google Earth, but here it asks, there's a link here, tutorial with some Bauhaus design tips and hints to get you started. And I love things like that. I'm very much I need to do things to understand things. I need to see it. And I think by able to build something, use your hands, read about it, watch a video, and do things, it really helps that some learners learn. Again, this resource is not prescriptive, it's very interactive. You should use it whilst encouraging our learners to think critically about what information they can use, get them to be creative and how to present their findings. Consider your audience that you're going to share your work with. I think this is really a tool to take away, to consume, to interact with, and then to create your own something project on Bauhaus with. That's really is a great tool. Within the Bauhaus project, we have, I don't know if you saw before, a link to Google and wages and abilities. I've used it to go and or to take or create a language and literature, for example. It's been great as a teacher to use it as an alternative to a slideshow. There are pre-made tours called Voyages. They're a great way to engage pupils in the world outside of their doorstep. But when used as a part of a series of lessons, Google Earth can really give context to a topic. And again, making the idea of making the abstract more concrete and real. Bauhaus is a topic which one of my senior pupils decided to research. I'm going to click on that. And she decided to present it to the upper school. She was also studying art, so this really appealed to her as she was able to create something really special, linking both her love of languages and architecture. So if I tap on Let's Go here, you can actually see they're in Germany. We're going to go to, and we can see where Bauhaus, the International Design School, is. So using the extension Screencastify, actually, she was able to record her tour of Bauhaus using Google Earth and Arts and Culture, and she was able to share with the school and actually another school that we were working with, because the classes were so small, we amalgamated 2 schools together. Screencastify, and she came up with a brilliant result, a lovely video which was so creative and showed off her personality and really her passion for the project. And we all know if you're passionate about something, you feel really motivated to learn about it. Screencastify in itself is an extension which you simply Google and then you install in your Chrome browser. It's up here. So I've installed it, it's up here. And once installed, you just click on the extension and it then allows you to either record the browser, the desktop, you can put your microphone off and you can take the webcam off, or rather when I've used this before, I put my webcam on and I can make videos to send to my classes, for example. So it's a really great tool. It just allows you to, explain a concept, to talk in a foreign language, whilst actually having something visual there as well. You can also snazz up your presentations by selecting the annotation tools in the bottom left-hand corner, and you can shine a spotlight on your mouse or draw on your recording. So you can really get creative with both the content by using Google Earth, Google Arts and Culture, but also the tools that come with Chrome. And one of those extensions is Screencastify. I love it, love it, love it. It's brilliant. Really helps make your thinking visible. And as we go through this tour, it takes us all the way from Germany through to the Netherlands. I love how it, spans out and then spans back in. There's Netherlands. And it goes all the way to, if I actually go back, it takes me to actual Australia. Who would have thought? I found this really interesting when I was researching it myself. Anyway, I think I'm kind of running out of time. So I could talk for hours about all the amazing tools and resources available. Don't even get me started on the amazing images and collections from the historical events and figure sections. But for now, I'm going to leave you with my very own little Kandinsky creation here. And that was just used with Google Slides and adding shapes. And I think it's just another tool to use with Google Arts and Culture, to use with Google Earth, that you can then showcase your learning. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to lead on to Stuart.
Grand, thank you very much for that, Lee. Coming through okay?
It's coming, yep.
Grand, thank you very much. Yeah, and just to certainly echo what Lee was saying there, this, the functionality within Google Arts and Culture is huge. It's vast. If you think about the amount of artworks that we've curated through the years, we're going back 50,000, 60,000 years when people decided to express themselves on the walls of caves. And using Google Arts and Culture, you can go and explore this. So this is tens of thousands worth of historical years and artworks that are housed. And as Lee was saying, it's all free. This is a huge monumental structure that's been built here, and the ability to go through it is just immense. I'm going to talk you through it a little bit about the Google Arts and Culture app. And the nice thing about it is that you can explore all of the functionality within Google Arts and Culture from your own phone or tablet device. So everything that's been shown there, you can do this with your own handheld. You can do this sitting at your coffee table, or more importantly, within the classroom with the children, depending on maybe what devices you have available. But bringing this into the classroom experience and enhancing the learning is a great way that you can use Google Arts and Culture. Certainly builds on the immersive and interactive world around you. And one of the nice wee things that you can use if you've got a camera built into your device are some of these nice little functions like art transfer, art selfie, projector, gallery, and the colour palette. So I'm going to take you through some of these ones, hopefully give you a couple of wee tips and tricks for the ways that you could use this within the classroom, or even just yourself. As Michael was saying when we were doing the rehearsal of this earlier, we all kind of fell in love with this again, and certainly switched off from the outside world just for a little bit to go and explore a museum or go and look at maybe our favourite works of art. So I would strongly recommend, even for yourself, just to get lost in it a little bit after today's session. First one that you can do then, when you tap on the little camera icon, is this art transfer. And this allows you to take take a photo, and you can transform it into a classical work of art. So maybe within your classroom you've been studying a particular artist. Well, you could transform the world around you in their vision. Your whole class, why not create your own digital portfolio? Have your students represent themselves with their favourite artist or favourite art movement. There are lots of different ones that you can flick your way through and choose to express yourself. Lee's already given us a little demonstration of the art selfie. Using the camera again, it takes a little scan of your face and transfers this, and the scan finds famous works around the world that it believes are linked to your likeness. Now, I don't know how much I want to agree with the likeness of these three works of art, but if anything, this feature gives it that fun element. This is particularly a great way to engage younger audiences. I mean, I bet we've all had some kind of experience of a little one or within a classroom of saying, well, why are we here? This is boring, or things like that. This gives it that little bit of humour, that little bit of fun. And as Lee was saying there, as soon as you have the kids laughing and asking questions, I mean, the second they say, who is that? You're on to a winner. There's that research. Well, let's go and find out who is that? Who is it that I look like? Let's go and research a wee bit more about them. And the second they want to find out a wee bit more, you've made it. Another one within the camera is the art projector. And this allows you to view real life works of art from the comfort of your own home, or in this case, back garden. You can select different artworks from around the globe and throughout history, and it drops it in real life and real life size. The nice thing that Lee said as well is you are able to get up close and personal, a lot more so. And if I was doing this in the gallery, I'm pretty sure it would have been chucked out by now. But Google has used some high definition cameras, and it has gotten some really intricate and detailed work. Here I've zoomed in just to show you that you can actually see the cracks in the paint. This is the Ambassadors, painted in 1533. And the ability to get this up close and personal is just fantastic. You've also got the ability, when you drop these, to have a transparent, or you can drop them on the wall. And like I said, you sometimes have that notion of how big is that artwork. So many of us look at prints of an image and don't anticipate how big it is. I had the lovely pleasure of going to see The Last Supper, and you're only allowed, I think, 15 minutes within the room, and it's that turn a corner, and it is breathtaking to understand how big and how long it must take to do some of these paintings. And having that ability within your own hands to walk up and see it and kind of get that little sense from your own back garden, from your own classroom, is incredible. You can also get a little bit creative. Why not hang a classic in your kitchen? If you've got some decorations that you're thinking about, or just wondering how would that picture look alongside other works of art, why not have a little bit of fun with it as well. The next one within the app is the Pocket Gallery. And again, this uses a little bit of augmented reality and drops various exhibitions and centres, and you can delve right into these works of arts and explore your own personal art gallery in private without having to leave, again, the comfort of your own place. So here I am wandering through the Art of Colour exhibition. Just to echo what Lee was saying, Kandinsky actually once said that colour is a power which directly influences the soul. Here you can explore 4 different rooms, each represent a different colour palette, including works from Van Gogh, Picasso. Here we've got a Rothko, Rembrandt. There's so much more, and you get this all to yourself. Each painting even gives you a little bit of background information here. Rothko again explaining the emotion he expressed just with his palette. And this is certainly, every time he painted, he wanted the user to have that, the viewer even, to have that same experience as he got whilst painting. Again, you can walk through it in real time, or you can use your fingers to zoom around the art gallery. And again, there's different historical works that you can download and walk through at your own pace. Another lovely little feature, and moving on from this, leads us to the colour palette. Here you can take pictures of the world around you, and using the colour palette, you can drag the colours around and view works of art that have got a similar likeness. Again, this could just lead to discussions of the colour palette, of the colour wheel, and again, just various works of art that has been exposed using these colours. What I would like to do is delve a little bit more into the art projector, because I had immense fun just exploring this within my own back garden. There are so many different works of art that you can explore and feature through. You could search for certain keywords, or in this case, artists, and selecting an artwork, you can view this in augmented reality. So tapping on this and clicking, or bringing it up, inserts this again into your home and gives you that real life view as to how this painting would look. Again, this was myself walking up and getting as close as I could to this painting and getting to see the individual brush strokes. This could lead so much into a depth of conversation with your own class. Van Gogh certainly, discussions around mental health and well-being and the emotions and the expression, and look how much is conveyed just within a single eye there. One of the little things that I thought was quite impressive with this was just the sheer number of artworks that are available to download and view. And one of the ideas I had as well, anytime you go into an art gallery, it's silent. Everyone's standing and they're forming, as Michael said earlier, they're forming an opinion. It's what makes us human. We get to look at something and think, what does that make me feel? What does that say about the world? One of the nice wee things you could do with a class then is some form of portrait hunt or picture hunt. And again, could you challenge your students to come up with a single word? What does this picture mean to you? What is the word that jumps out of the dictionary when you look at this? And it's funny, even just looking through these, I will take a little pause and try out yourself. I'll not ask you to share, but it's funny how we look at it and we form a different opinion. This one was content for me. And taking the picture in, you know, allowing a student to come up with their own portfolio of work, and they could address this in any way. You know, they could add the phrases that jumped out at them. Picasso here called this the melancholy woman, and she doesn't look that way to me. The colours certainly do, but I had that determined style look. She looks as if she's ready to bounce back in my eyes. She's got that kind of staring off into the future. I mean, how do you sum up these images in one word? But again, allowing your students to go and explore, to find images that stand out to them, to save these images and create their own portfolio, it just makes a huge impact. One of the nice little things as well is the ability to drop this within your classroom as well. Why not have a little bit of fun with it and share a cuppa with the Merry Fiddler? Or you could get some arts and culture yourself. There is a man reading there. What one is the painting and what one is the real life? Or again, why not just have a little bit of fun with the students in your classroom, have them find an image and see if they can bring it to life themselves. Lee touched on the augmented reality, and even there with those artworks. The augmented reality that's available within Google Arts and Culture, as I've already said so many times, is so vast. You can invite extinct creatures into your home, into your classroom, animals that would just be impossible to fit through the door. You could bring the astronaut, Neil Armstrong, in the suit that took that small step on the moon and walk around and explore the actual size and the valves, etc. Here I've taken a blue whale, and again, this is just using the app, and the augmented reality allows for a window to explore and view these creatures. Obviously, this isn't to scale. I mean, this is still 1 meter to 20 meters, but you can still get in the belly of the beast doing this. This is housed in the National History Museum. All this information that I'm actually discussing to you, this isn't from my own background. This is all came just from clicking on these structures, these works, and finding out a little bit more about them. So that whale there was named Hope, a symbol of humanity's power to help shape a sustainable future. And the last thing that I'm going to just leave you on before I pass back to Michael, again, is coming back to something that he's already explored, which is the 360-degree videos. So again, there's a lot of YouTube embed videos that Google Arts and Culture have created and curated. And again, you can delve within these videos and explore a 360-degree immersive view. I'm going to just let this video play out, but I would strongly recommend, if you're going to do one thing, is go and find these immersive 360-degree videos and have a little look yourself. And I'll just let this one play.
And the largest animals that live on land today. To maintain its huge size, it ate all day, every day, always on the lookout for its next meal.
And that was just with that handheld device. Wherever I moved, the screen moved. A wholly immersive experiential experience, certainly, that you can have. And bring that back into the classroom. Do you know, ask the question, what happens next? And these are all questions that can enhance a learning experience, bring something more to life, create a habitat for it. Why not design a 3-course dinner for the giraffe titan? Do you know who doesn't want to design a 3-course dinner for a giraffe titan? And in that minute of the dinosaur coming off the podium, think how much your students would just be engaged and motivated within the learning. Certainly, if you look at the comments within these videos, every single one of them says, why did we not have this when we were in school? Why was this not a thing? Because it would just have made that learning experience a lot more fun, engaging, interactive and immersive. So why not bring it into your classroom, see what you can do with it, play about with it for yourself, for your students, and have fun with it, certainly. And I think that's me, Michael. If I just pass back to you, thank you very much.
That was fabulous. Thank you so much for that. It was a real eye-opener to the kind of possibilities that augmented reality bring us. I love that dinosaur, that you can actually walk around it and see what's going on. And it's not just you watching a video, you're getting to direct the action. We don't have much time left, so I'm just going to focus on quite the kind of later parts of it. You can do things like experiments, which we've had a lot of fun with as a team. So you can, for example, do some art colouring books. Google like doing experiments and playing with ideas that are different about how you engage with art. So for example, if I look at this Egyptian painting, although this initially looks as if you're just doing colour by numbers, so I might want to just change the Egyptian dresses to my lovely red ones, for example. I can see the original painting. If I go down to the left-hand corner here, I can see the original, and that looks lovely. But what does mine look like? I'm going to make mine look completely different. So I'm going to choose a different colour palette for different things. And although this, the filling in by numbers, you might not think that's quite an effective approach, it actually works really well for engaging young people in understanding the period, doing something creative. And then eventually when you get to take the layers off, if I take the lines away, you can see I'm just left with a flat painting. If I layered that on top of what the original painting was, I think you can begin to see the possibilities here and what you can create and how you can repaint and recolor what this actually looks like. So if I was to go back to my, put my lines back in, and maybe choose purple for this whole wall, can I see how this painting is building up? And the nice thing is we can then download that as a file. Once children have completed that, they can download that as a file for themselves that they can insert into a Google slide deck, for example, when they're given a presentation or curating the work they've been doing on the Egyptians, for example. So lots of fun to be had, but remember, at the same time, we were thinking about how we can make the learning different. What are our learning intentions? Does this exercise fit in with our learning intentions? So we can go to artists. We can pick any artists. We can go through time again, A to Z. Pick one you like. Sorry, we can go to mediums. So if you were interested in looking at how people have constructed things using just pen, how have they created using silver in history? How have they created using pencil or graphite, for example? Pencil's a big favourite of mine. I think it's amazing that the kind of work can be done just with pencil and maybe water in addition to that pencil. And lots of examples here for students to look at, including Lowry again, who was well noted for it. We've got art movements so that you can look at modern art. I'm a big fan of street art, for example, and that's a definite movement, and it's more than just Banksy. So it's about letting your young people explore what is beyond what they think and understand. One of my favorites just has to be this one. It's just it's Cobra, Eduardo Cobra, and it's an amazing picture on the side of a building. I don't know how they managed to get permission, but it's just so arresting, and it's there and it's in the life of the city, and the comparison of that side of the building compared to the kind of wreck on the other side is really worth something contemplating that. Finally, I'm really interested in historical events and historical figures. The historical events are really great curated assets for you to jump into a period of time. You don't have to go searching lots of different places on the internet for this content. Arts and Culture have pulled this together for you. And I'm particularly interested in the Holocaust, for example, just because just recently they did a research of young people in America, and they didn't know that 6 million Jews were killed. Some people thought the Jews were responsible for the Holocaust. Some people didn't believe it at all. And that needs to change. And one of the great ways we can support and keep the learning going about this tragedy is to use resources like this. So Anne Frank, for example, this is a fantastic resource all about Anne Frank's house. But what Google Arts and Culture do too is they do not leave you with lots and lots of content to read. They understand that the image and just a few words really tell a story all of its own. Image is so important. We don't want to do the cognitive overload bit by having, you know, just lots and lots of text. That's not how we're going to get some rich learning happening. So it's minimal on the text that you're having to read, but really strong visual images about Anne as a real person and understanding where she came from, and other members of her family. Here are assets and, you know, historical resources that you would want young people to be exposed to. This is what the building looked like way back in the past. Anne, as a young child at school, growing up in that area. Kristallnacht and the importance of that in terms of what changed in that country, the anti-Jewish measures that came into place. And this is a very affecting thing. I didn't know Anne Frank's diary was tartan. As a Scotsman, perhaps I should have, maybe. And really powerful when she said, I hope I will be able to confide everything to you as I've never been able to confide in anyone. And I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support to her. And I know her diary was. But unfortunately, that ended up in a tragedy. Despite hiding for over 2 years, she did end up at Auschwitz and the tragedy unfolded there. But it takes you beyond that. And what Otto, her father, did was return. We've got some clips of Anne Frank who was actually filmed. We can find out what it looks like now. We can find out about 1930s styles of housing and what that looked like. Again, we can move around that space and talk about it, use it as a stimulus for writing or conversations within our class. So really rich resources, which I really need exploring by all of us, I suppose. Finally, you can jump into historical figures, and there's some of the greatest historical figures there, from Alexander the Great to Donald Trump to Putin, Clinton, Castro, even John McCain, and dozens of others, if you want to maybe pick a person and go and explore a little bit more about their life. Finally, there's places, if you want to have a look at the historical art and culture about Australia or Ukraine or Hong Kong, you can see how many items exist for each one of those places and get exposed to the culture of a city, of a place through history and time. What I hope we've managed to show you is, and I know we've only really scratched the surface, to be honest, is that here is a resource for you and your young people to explore all the things that make us human, all the things that we don't know about. And I think the more we do that with our young people and families, the richer the world will be. I don't know if Stuart or Lee have got anything to add.
Loads to add, but running out of time, Michael. You're over time.
So I'm going to stop sharing and just finally stop off with just a little. We are here to help. Both XMA and Google for Education, we're really, really strong partners together. And so if you want to contact us, there's a number there for you, or skills@xma.co.uk. Follow us on Twitter, and hopefully we'll see you all again at our next Google for Education webinar or another XMA webinar sometime in the future. Can I thank Lee and Stuart for the contributions they've made. I hope you stay safe and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.